Wait a second, is that Raritanium?
Ratchet and Clank is back, and it's on PS4, and Tom, you've been playing it.
Yeah, it's a good game, Jim.
It's a good
I
game.
get that right out at the beginning.
Okay.
I would say you should buy this game. It's that good.
Me specifically should buy this game?
Anyone who likes fun games. If you're unclear about what Ratchet and Clank is on the PS4, it kind of is a remake.
Okay.
Well, it is a remake, but it's not a remaster like you are maybe used to seeing. So on the PS3, the PS3 received an HD trilogy collection of the Ratchet and Clank games. This is not that. This is a complete, from the ground up remake of the original Ratchet and Clank game. Okay. So the 2002 game, which you may have played on PS2, this is the same story, essentially. It's not exactly the same, but for the purpose of this review, it's the same story, but remade completely from scratch graphically. It's got new areas, new mechanics. It's essentially a new game based on the original game.
Okay, so new and expanded. There's stuff in here that people who played the original to death will happily come back for?
Yeah,
or?
There are definite bits, like if you've played the original or you played the original fairly recently and have a knowledge of it. I mean, I can't remember it at all. I looked back on YouTube to see some clips, and you do similar things and the similar areas and encounter similar people, but it is not a exact copy, but with better graphics. It feels like a new game. It's also a cheaper game. I don't know why, but it's been released on PSN at least £30, which is a lot cheaper than a normal PS4 release.
Especially for a digital price.
You can get it cheaper than that, obviously, if you get it online or in a physical box copy. And it's a very good game. Ratchet and Clank is essentially a platformer, 3D platformer in like a Mario mold, I guess, but with lots of shooting and guns and explosions. So action platformer or something along those lines. And it's always, for me, been a very, very good series that I don't quite understand why it's not as popular as it probably should be. It feels like a game that, had it been published by Nintendo or made by Nintendo, people would be a lot more excited about it. And every time a new one comes out, there doesn't appear to be much excitement about it, and it comes out and it's very good. And this is exactly the same. It's a fun adventure, sci-fi adventure, planet hopping, lots of variety in what you're doing, lots of running and jumping and shooting, tons of weapons, lots of weapon upgrades, lots of little bits that are like optional, hoverboard racing, shooting things out of the sky with big guns, grinding on rails. It's a very fun game that feels like it's good for everybody. It's like in an age now where we have Dark Souls and we have kind of obscure indie games and we have impossible to get into online shooters because everyone's so good. This is a game that anyone can play. I would say that if you're coming to it from like the point of view of someone that plays a lot of games or has played all of the Ratchet and Clank games, play it on hard, not normal. Normal is a bit easy. Hard feels like the right level of challenge.
Okay.
And then there's more. Once you finish the game, you can I'm not sure what they call it, but there's like New Game Plus essentially. The game is not massively long, but it's long enough, and there's a lot of optional things that will add a significant amount of time. There's a lot of collectibles, cards, golden bolts, upgrading all the weapons to max. You might not do on your first run through, so you want to do that again next time. And it's a fun game. Like, it's a game where a weapon turns things into 8-bit style pixel enemies, makes them dance.
Well, that sounds fun.
I think it's a game that is unlike a lot of stuff that's out there. Like, it is just pure fun.
And it's a bit of a blast from the past.
Yeah.
Older games, especially from the sort of PS1, PS2 era, when they were still figuring out how games should control. A lot of games from that time, the control schemes can be very fiddly, especially if you never played them originally. What is this like? Does it feel modern?
It just feels like a modern PS4 shooter, essentially.
So there was no kind of barrier you had to...
No.
Sometimes you have to transport yourself back to...
it is not the PS2 game, so it feels like a PS4 game. It has dual stick controls. You can set it up to be played either as so it feels like you're playing a third-person shooter all the time, or one that feels like a 3D platformer that switches to more shooty controls when you're shooting a gun, essentially. I play it stuck as the third-person shooter mode. It just feels better to me because there's a lot of shooting. It's I'd say primarily a shooter with platforming bits, but other people may think other way. But
you make it sound like sort of DreamWorks did a sort of Uncharted film.
I'd say it's have you played any of the Earth Defense Force games?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it's got a similar vibe to that because there's a lot of like big enemies. There's a lot of enemies coming at you, but it's a lot cheerier in tone.
Yeah.
And the production values are a million times better. Like, it looks amazing at points. People say it looks like a Pixar film. It doesn't, because Pixar films look incredible. This is a video game, so it can't look like a Pixar film, but it has a similar overall look, I'd say.
I mean, from seeing some of the footage, I know what people mean, and it looks really impressive when you. I've just got images of. I remember there's a city environment, right, and it looks very Fifth Element. There's lots of things flying around, and it does look like something that should have much more mass appeal than it does.
Yeah, I don't get why it's not as doesn't seem like a main key franchise for Sony, even though it's been around for like 14 years and always seems to be very good. I don't quite know why it doesn't have it just seems to have been snuck out in April and not really made much of a noise, but hopefully it sells well. It should do at the price as well. I just can't really see why, if you're into shooters and you like a bit of colour in your games, you like showing off your PS4 as like, look at these amazing graphics, it's perfect for you, and like definitely give it a go. It's like 30 quid. You can't go wrong.
You all right, pal?
If you enjoyed that review and you'd like to know when we do more, click that big red button to subscribe and you'll be told whenever we do anything. Get it clicked?